Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Chapter 5 of Pulitzer Month on No Edit Book Reviews. Today, it's The Sixth Extinction in Unnatural History by Elizabeth Kolbert. Kolbert is a journalist and has authored a couple of books. Most notably, of course, is The Sixth Extinction, which won her a Pulitzer Prize in 2015. This book is centered on a topic that has popped up a couple of times on this channel, and that is the Anthropocene. Our current geological era is the Cenozoic or recent life era. The event that marks the beginning of this era is the end Cretaceous extinction event, which we know as the asteroid that killed off the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. Throughout the history of life on Earth, there have been 5 mass extinction events that we can identify from the fossil record, as well as many minor extinction events. The end Cretaceous extinction is just the most recent mass extinction event in Earth's history. Unless, like the author of this book and many other people, you count the mass extinction, which many experts say we are witnessing right now and is the subject of this book. Which brings us to the Anthropocene. The idea has been suggested that we call our current epoch within the Cenozoic era the Anthropocene, since human activity is directly or indirectly responsible for much of what makes this epoch stand out from the last one. Well, to be fair, our current epoch is defined by our coming out of the Pleistocene Ice Age, but there is much more going on that, as suggested by the book's subtitle, some consider to be unnatural. The Sixth Extinction uses each of its 13 chapters in a way that highlights an individual species to open discussion on humanity's role in the extinction of that animal, as well as to raise questions about humanity's role in the increasing rate of extinctions more generally. Are mass extinctions characterized by sudden catastrophe, or is it the uniformitarian position offered by Charles Lyell, which states that slow and gradual changes produce these mass extinctions? The two most important questions this book addresses are: 1. Is the rate of extinction higher than it naturally ought to be? Kolbert, as well as pretty much any other science writer I've read, say yes. The second question is: are humans responsible for this rise? This book was written in 2014, and at that time, the answer was widely acknowledged as yes, and since that time, we've only strengthened that position. We're no longer living in a time when this can be denied. Kolbert establishes natural patterns so that we can overlay them with patterns that emerge when humans enter the picture. We get an idea of the natural background extinction rate, and we see how humans have radically accelerated it. A subject that I found interesting was this idea of new Pangea. Pangea was the name of the landmass when all of the continents were together as one mass. With no oceans to separate these areas, there was little to stop an organism from spreading to any other given area, besides other geological barriers and weather and climate related factors. New Pangea was a loose idea that resulted from human activities of travel and commerce and agriculture. We began to see species of plants and animals taking hold in areas that they never would have reached without human intervention. But these organisms were traveling to foreign areas where everything there evolved into their balance with nature, and when a foreign species enters the picture, someone's niche is being encroached on, and we've seen how these foreign species can upset the balance and wreak havoc on local populations, even resulting in extinction events. The main idea of this book is human activity causing extinctions. Whether we're talking about overhunting, habitat destruction, global warming and ocean acidification, or the introduction of invasive species, intentionally or not, as in the fungus we've inadvertently transported around the globe which is killing amphibians, there's no doubt that the increase in the rate of extinction is at least partially due to human activity. Kolbert stresses that nature tends to work very slowly at a geological pace, unless we're talking about a catastrophe like the kind that killed the dinosaurs. There's this relationship between evolution and extinction, but when it comes to things like sudden catastrophes, animals never evolved traits to help deal with things like this, so Whether or not an organism survives a catastrophe is largely down to luck, and human activities can create changes that life has a very difficult time keeping up with. So we have to notice, if we humans are ushering in the next truly mass extinction, it will likely be, by geologic time standards, an overnight affair, more like a sudden catastrophe than by a drawn-out uniformitarian process. And then we would be the catastrophe. I do want to say that while I did enjoy this book, and I do agree with what it's doing, this is not the best book I've seen. I felt there was a lot of things that Kolbert should have added into this work. For example, there's no or little mention of keystone species or how disruptions in food webs have greater effects on many other animals. The importance of biodiversity could have been more prominently featured. Kolbert tells a good story, but doesn't do a lot to sell her position, though at this point I don't think she should really have to, but then again, there are a lot of people who resist this kind of material. I also don't remember Kolbert mentioning all of the minor extinction events that happen somewhat regularly, nor do I recall mention of some of the less hospitable intervals that the planet has been known to experience. This book also doesn't take much time to focus on how trends we've seen could be reversed, the way some of these books usually tend to do. And of course, there's a lot more to this book. She brought up a very interesting idea that I've never heard anywhere else before. Suppose we go extinct and us apes lost our chance at being an evolutionary success. Kolbert brings up the possibility of rats basically doing what apes did and becoming the dominant species. I thought that was pretty interesting. It was enjoyable reading about the different animals, and Kolbert is a serious journalist. Every chapter covers information she gathers in the field with numerous experts right in the middle of the action. And this is a good book to have under your belt. This is stuff that people should know about, and this did win a Pulitzer Prize for a reason. I like that it's written to be accessible for any reader, and I think that's what the author was trying to do. This is the kind of book that might open up a reader to and become interested in new fields. I want to close this video with a question. If you declare that, yes, we are beginning to experience a mass extinction, one that is likely to get a whole lot worse with many more species on their way out, is that admission tantamount to saying that it's too late, that there's nothing that can or is likely to be done to stop it? What do you guys think? If it's true that the Anthropocene will usher in a mass extinction, what should we humans do about it? Or should we do anything? Okay, that's it for this one, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. This is stuff that I think is pretty important to learn about. And if you want to learn more, I'd shop around for a used Intro to Environmental Science book. Something like this will give you a very broad base that will complement a book like this one very nicely. So if you want to learn more about how human activity is contributing to biodiversity loss, which could someday include the loss of our very own species, check out The Sixth Extinction by Elizabeth Kolbert.